Welcome back to the Legacy Radio Network. This is the Everything Financial Radio Show, and I'm your host, Dennis Tubbergen. Glad you joined us today. We're chatting with Mr. Jeffrey Tucker. Jeffrey, would you, before I miss the opportunity, if someone wants to learn more about your work, and you are a prolific author as well, let everybody know how to maybe catch up with you and learn a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, you can just head over to lfb.org. That's Leslie Fair Books. And I write, either on a blog or an article almost every day, 4 or 5 times a week anyway. And I have an article coming out in a few minutes on the issue of natural sponges and why we can't import them, just as an example. These are kind of topics I'm really drawn to. I'm really drawn to regulation topics. I mean, to me, it's all about human liberty. If we just let people free to work out their own destinies, then it's going to go better than it would go if we assign a bunch of central planners to rule our lives. And I try to show that in every possible way. It's my passion. It's what I love. So I'm very honored to have the position of the executive editor here and be a source of truth in this world.
Well, speaking of central planners, seems like a perfect segue to talk about the Federal Reserve. The Fed recently announced that we were going to have quantitative easing to infinity and beyond, that there was really no targeted stopping point, that they were going to print $40 billion of freshly printed money every month and buy mortgage-backed securities. What's going to be the outcome of this policy?
More irresponsibility, more economic stagnation, no liquidation, no correction of the errors of the past. Yeah, I also read about the Fed's, the results of the Fed's FOMC meeting and their dedication to the zero interest rate policy that they have. There are a number of aspects of this thing that are extremely troubling. I mean, the idea of zero interest in the first place is contrary to everything we know from all of human history. I mean, when savings are as low as they are today and risks are as high as they are today, interest rates should be much higher. That would be good for savers. It would be good for the banks because then they could make profits making loans. And it would help free up resources. It would represent a kind of tightening of credit in a way, but credit is tight despite zero interest rate policies. These policies are killing savers. They're making it almost impossible for anybody to park any regular middle-class American to park money anywhere and benefit from it. And they're making it very difficult for banks to make money. So the banking industry is extremely unhealthy. In fact, it's fundamentally broken. It's very difficult to get a mortgage. You can't get your business, a line of credit for your business anymore. They're all making money through refinancing and through fancy financial tricks. The big players are still making money, of course. It's the rest of us that are being robbed through zero interest rate policies. And these policies are catastrophic, and they're being pursued along with this other policies they have this commitment to, which is continue to buy bad mortgages. And this is a funny thing because it really represents the Fed's unwillingness to face reality. They've been promising to bolster housing markets now for going on 5 years, and it hasn't worked, and they continue to try to do it. It's a little like, if you send your kid off to college with a credit card and tell him to, be disciplined, and he keeps running up gigantic debts, $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 a month, and absurd spending. You catch him, and he says, sorry about that, and you go, okay, well, don't do it again, and you pull out your credit card and pay for his bad debts, What is going to be the effect of that? I mean, there's not going to be any liquidation. There's not going to be a change of behavior. There's not going to be any change whatsoever. It's going to continue on and on, and that's basically what the Fed is doing. It's in the position of being the stupid parent that keeps enabling the college spendthrift college kid. And so we'll not see any change. I mean, so long as the Fed is buying up these bad mortgages, we're not going to see the liquidation that we need to see in these markets so we can get going here again. And I noticed that neither presidential candidate is talking about the subject. In fact, very few people are dissenting. Actually, there's one member of the FOMC who is dissenting. He's the president of the Richmond Fed. And this year he's voted no 7 times. against this policy because he recognizes it doesn't work. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist to recognize it doesn't work. You just have to look at reality.
Yeah, exactly. So in your opinion, Jeffrey, the Fed's likely going to continue to do this because, excuse me, they really don't know what else to do. And how does this play out? Do the bond markets revolt and we say, wow, now we've got to implement austerity, the Fed can't enable anymore, or do we have an inflationary or hyperinflationary environment? In your view, how does this play out?
These are very interesting questions. I mean, the first presumption you had there where you said, well, because the Fed doesn't know what else to do. I mean, it is something of a mystery why they keep doing stuff that doesn't work. I think the answer comes down to this, and that's that the policy is working to do what they want it to do, which is sustain the banking system as it currently exists. They're very worried that if they open up the banks to real market forces, that everything is going to collapse. I mean, you and I think we don't have a lot of confidence in the system. Evidently, the Fed has even less than you and I have, because otherwise they wouldn't be pursuing these policies. In other words, they're giving banks a permanent line of profitability by keeping their deposits at the Fed, and they're giving them a low rate of return. They're convinced that this is a higher rate of return they could get in the markets if they're really subjected to genuine competitive pressure. So that, in a way, if you're worried about confidence in the system, the Fed's policies alone suggest that the Fed is even less confident in the system than you and I are. As to how it's going to play out, as I mentioned before, the banking system's broken. We're not going to be seeing any real substantial money creation out of the banking system until the loan sector is fixed, and the loan sector won't be fixed until interest rates begin to rise. So until we see those kind of changes, I don't think we have any reason to worry about hyperinflation. But if the banking system does start working again, ironically, we've got a serious problem because you've got heavily capitalized banks. Okay, it's phony capital, but at least on the books, they're heavily capitalized, and they're going to be in a position to create high-powered money like we've never seen before, and that's where you start getting the Weimar-style scenarios. I would say that that's an unlikely scenario. Most likely, I would expect continued slow growth or negative growth and economic stagnation on to the future. And this is at this point, more and more people are starting to look for other places in the world to park their money, their capital, and even themselves.
Jeffrey, you spent some time at the von Mises Institute, and I've been fascinated by the work of the von Mises Institute, and one of the things that you mentioned in your last answer was that these banks are capitalized with phony capital. Can you expand on that and talk about the difference between a fiat currency and maybe a more sound type of money, and give the listeners maybe just a 101 level education?
Well, the way banks are supposed to work is that they serve as a kind of a warehousing function for real money, and which through all history has been something real, like gold or silver, not just paper tickets. And if there are paper tickets, they're backed by something real. So they serve a kind of warehousing function, or you can keep your gold there and they loan it out to other people, and you can make your money work for you. But about 100 years ago, with the creation of the Fed, we've seen this gradual depreciation of the currency. The gold backing has been removed completely through a series of political tricks, and now money is just purely paper. And they say you can't money doesn't grow on trees. Well, yeah, okay, but paper money it can be as plentiful as leaves in the fall, on the ground. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. Something that can be created infinitely. So when the housing crisis hit and prices began to fall and banks began to see their portfolios sort of go belly up, the Fed swung into action and created a bunch of fake money and recapitalized all the banks and turned them into kind of zombie institutions. They no longer do mostly what they're supposed to do, which is warehousing money and loaning out savings. And instead, they've found other things to do. There's endless churning of the existing mortgages, for example, or manipulating the system to try to find profits wherever they can. But they're not operating like normal banks anymore. So we've in effect gotten rid of normal sense of the market economy as it pertains to the banking industry. The banking industry is on a welfare state right now, and it's unsustainable. It's absolutely unsustainable.
So, Jeffrey, I've had guests on the program that would say that we are certainly in a deflationary environment, and that we will see these central banks continue to try to print their way out of the problem. And I've had some guests that are of the opinion that we will see one currency in the world relink itself to something tangible like gold or silver, with one of the candidates being China, and that will force all of the rest of the world's central banks to fall into line. In the time we have left, give me your take on that opinion.
You know, I find that very interesting. It's something I've played with myself, and certainly if you put a ruler on the charts, you see that China is going places, and we're not. The other thing about the Chinese, and all my friends tell me that they're very much attached to real money. They like gold and they like silver, and there's a dedication on the ground at the ground level in China to sound banking. So it's I don't rule that out. I mean, it seems like, you know, we're talking about something that wouldn't happen until maybe 10 years out, but if China adopts a gold standard, yeah, we could see some dramatic changes, but I don't think that the U.S. government's going to let that kind of thing happen just casually. I mean, I think probably the U.S. would favor war over that kind of scenario, unfortunately, which is why I'm very concerned about the economic situation now. You know, at the end of the New Deal, when it was obvious to one and all that FDR's policies did not work, he decided that the best hope for America was to distract everybody in a foreign conflict. And we're going to be seeing more of that kind of warmongering sort of thing going on, not because we face any real serious international threats, but because our bureaucratic, monetary, and political classes in the U.S. have run out of ideas, and the population is starting to get panicked. So war starts to look more and more like an attractive option. So I think, you know, people who are concerned about the future for their children need to be very worried about this kind of warmongering politicians that are trying to manipulate us into thinking that our enemy is overseas somewhere versus where it really is, which is in the Beltway in Washington, D.C.
Well, Jeffrey Tucker, thank you for joining us today. We certainly hope you'll come back.
Okay, it's really great to be here. Thank you.
Everything Financial Radio will return after these words. Stay with us.